Oh. All right, next game. All right. I think this one will go well. Test, test, test. All right. Are we good? Are we good to go? Let's see. Anyway, guys, enjoy. First and last game released on every console. My food should be just about done. I'll be back. Combat. The heck? Combat on Atari? Okay, back. So for everybody that doesn't know what's going on, this is the first and last game for every single system that has come out. And this is the first ever game that I've owned in my entire life. Super Mario World, November 1990 for the Super NES. This was the first game that I've actually legitimately owned. Oh, the music was so good, bro. What's this? Metal Slayer Glory Director's Cut, November 2000? 2000? They released a game? Why was there censorship, man? What kind of game is this? I can't read no Japanese. Metal Slayer Glory Director's Cut. What the heck is going on over there? I'm gonna have to Google this game, man. Just kidding. Virtual Fighter. Oh. On the Sega Saturn. Okay, so Sega Saturn Virtual Fighter, which I heard when it came to Virtual Fighter, that might have been the first time we've actually got to see NVIDIA on a system? Graphics card or something? Akira versus Jackie. I heard Virtual Fighter's coming back in a big way as well. Winner. Final Fight Revenge. Cody versus Eddie. Oh, my boy Cody, bro. Damn. Wait, they need to bring back Eddie. Hager versus Cody. I'd love to see some of these characters. Final Fight Revenge, last game on the Sega Saturn. So the first game on the Sega Saturn was actually Virtual Fighter. Oh, hey, who that? PlayStation 1 first game. Ridge Racer! Holy shoot. Ridge Racer, man. This actually looks good for PlayStation 1, bro. Damn, I'm looking at this and I'm like, yo, low-key? If I seen this back then after seeing so many 2D games, it'd be like, this right here, guys, is the future of gaming. CT Special Forces 3 Bioterror. Okay. What's that? I don't know about CT, but PlayStation 1's last game. Okay. Next game. Blah, 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 blah. Nice ducking, man. Grenade. Hablinga. Mario 64. My first Nintendo 64 game. Truing. Peak. Still gets spammed to this day by the masses. Oh, yes. You gotta go to the final battle. Sorry, guys. Spoilers. This is the final fight against Bowser. Sorry, spoilers, Odie. Sail so long, Bowser. Dang, man. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was the last one? Or, I remember meeting Tony Hawk for the first time. That was it. Sick-ass OST. Damn, so this was the last N64 game on August 2002. El Clasico. Thank you, Master Dragon, for the first Virtual Fighter 3 TB Dreamcast first ever game. Fire. I like playing as Pai's grandpa. I forgot his name though. Lao? I don't remember. Kage, Sara. So yeah, when I get a chance to jam some Virtual Fighter in the future, I don't know if I could play Virtual Fighter's beta for free. Karus. Last Dreamcast game. Karus. Looks like a Ikaruga, like bullet hell type of game. Here's the name. These games usually have really good soundtracks. Damn. Eternal Ring for PlayStation 2 is the first ever game on their system, and it looks good. Is this an RPG? Damn, I'm about to Google this too. Oh, it's first person, dungeon crawl. Eternal Ring. And FIFA 14 Legacy Edition, September 2013.
Oh, that's a great finish, Clive. You know, it's so pleasing when you get
so well, playing his way out of trouble.
Wow, that game was from Software. A first-person ARPG from Software. First ever PS1 game.
PK. They've got an extra.
Crazy. Luigi's Mansion, the first ever GameCube game. You know what? Funny enough, I thought it was Super Monkey Ball because I got Super Monkey Ball early before release. But I guess once the GameCube came out, I guess that is counted as their first ever launch title. I feel like Monkey Ball release chat before the system even came out. So in this instance, I feel like I made this agree, but it's fine.
First and 10.
Madden NFL. Oh wait, GameCube last game. August 2007.
Only
Mind you, the
one
last
man in the
PS2 game ended in
backfield.
2013.
Throws it.
Wow,
He
GameCube
finds his
stopped
man.
making
Jammer
games
is
stopped being
there
made
for
on
the
GameCube
tackle at
way
the
earlier.
40.
6
First
years earlier.
down on that completion. Good throw off his back foot that time, John.
Wow, this looks clean. GameCube is actually OD. Da-da-da-da. Halo Combat Evolve, of course. Who could ever forget the greatness that is Halo, man? Oh man, the AR, the pistol was so OP in this game, chat. It was so OP.
Ball on their own 20.
Madden NFL 09 was the first Xbox game.
The Vikings with a 4-man front.
Oh my god. Yo, what up? What up, Blue? Audio warbling? Yeah, the audio was warbling. Greetings.
Hand it off.
That's it.
Number 52
Is Madden 08 the one with Are You Gonna Be My Girl? Don't remember. What up, Icky? What about the S&T video? I think it glitched. Who was asking? Is that Danny? Yeah, it kind of glitched. My internet. I think when I didn't know where it left off. Call of Duty, first ever 360 game. Just Dance 2019. So I think they're worried about copyright. I guess this song doesn't have copyright issues. Resistance Fall of Man, November 2006. Damn, Resistance was kind of hard, bro. Imagine that. PS2 was still having games made for it while this game was out. I love this game, by the way. This game was hard. Def Shakedown Hawaii last game. Bro, you good? Grand Theft Auto? Wii Sports. Jam, where's your video about developers? The developer thing. That one is really interesting to me if you have a link. I really like that one. I feel like as a lot of us tend to play games, some of us like to play games the way the developer quote unquote intends. While some of us like to dig underneath the hood and figure out some cool shite. Retro City Rampage DX. Yeah, my food's probably ready by now. This new Super Mario Bros. Wii U was the first Wii U game. This is about all games, so TCGs are included as well. It's fine. Silver Falls Undertakers. Let's see. Silver Falls Undertakers. Never heard of this. I just realized I can't see chat on my OBS screen. I'm gonna have to refresh. Killzone Shadowfall on PlayStation 4 was their first ever game. Let me grab my food.
Easy, G. This place is full of deceptions and dirty...
Should be enough.
Die, you sack of shit!
You want me gone? Shut down the signal.
All right, let me grab Jam's link. All right. Let's see how this works. After this, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem. What's up? What's up? He said, all right, y'all too relaxed. Facts. I'm coming through the questions. With all of Sony's exclusive dropping on PC after a year and change, are y'all going to buy a PS6 when it drops? Y'all think PS6 will be cheaper than PS5 Pro? That's a tough one for me. I feel like I'm always going to be a fan of having Nintendo and Sony consoles because I'm not one that usually has a souped up PC like everybody else does. So for me, I think for PC gamers who have souped up PCs and their shit's up to date, it's different, right? Like they can. For people like me, it's different, it's different. I, for one, like having PC. I like PC, Sony console, Nintendo console. That's forever my Triforce of gaming. But we'll see what happens. I mean, if Sony, we'll see what happens if, like, what if Nintendo, like, has a hostile takeover and everybody just puts everything on a Nintendo system, right? Let's check out this video from Jam Losing the Game, who says how skilled players ruin games and designers are to blame. Designers are to blame. Very interesting talking point.
Gamers have a problem.
Okay, go on.
They like to get good at games.
Mm.
You know, like there's this. I don't know what it is. It's just this innate like feeling that they're like, I gotta get really good at this thing. I love it. I love it so much that I must destroy it.
It sounds like you're bad at games, and you're about to tell everyone else why that's okay.
Yeah.
And why everyone that's getting good at games is ruining games for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just because you're actually just
That's
bad
my
at
vibe.
games.
Do you think I'm bad?
Did you use the mimic tier in Elden Ring?
I use it.
Yeah.
Distraction makers.
That's
So
rude.
let's talk about the paradox of skill.
Yeah.
And the paradox of skill is that the players that love your game the most want to feel rewarded for playing the game, and you want to reward them for playing the game. You have this sort of symbiotic relationship of, I'm going to present these challenges of increasing difficulty, and then players who love
What
my
a
game
jerk.
will continue to
This is
overcome
what-
those challenges, and we have this symbiotic relationship.
And you don't want players that have high
all right,
skill
Jim.
and enjoy the game and want more out of it to get bored.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you're constantly being asked to up the challenge, up the skill required, so that players who play your game to the ends of the earth will continue to be invested in the experience. And the paradox comes in where what this continued progression over time shuts the door on new players.
Not just we're not just talking about PvP games either. This can affect PvE player versus environment situations also.
You know, leaning too much into this rewarding of your most enfranchised players ends up creating what we're referring to as the valley of effort, which is a valley that keeps getting more and more vast over time as the required skill to play the game keeps going up. And this can be especially in competitive games because players.
This is like, this guy sounds like he probably subscribes to everything Sakurai says, because Sakurai, this is why he's able to make games that appeal to both. He mainly focuses on the casual, but he'll sprinkle in some stuff here and there for the hardcore to enjoy. Or maybe he didn't intend to do it, or maybe he did and he's just, not admitting it. At the end of the day, I think it does a good job of allowing us to have just enough to, as casuals, to be happy. And if you're a hardcore, usually the hardcore always want more, but I think there's enough for the hardcore to be invested, right? You can never make the hardcore truly happy, but as long as you can grab the casuals and you can make a lot of money off the casuals, usually it looks like these developers are happy because casuals they're by the millions and billions.
Themselves are part of the content of what new players have to engage with in order to play the game. So if you have a player base of entirely professional level skilled players, the valley of effort is so vast that getting new players to play the game means they have to lose for, 5 years straight before they.
And not everybody wants to lose 5 years straight. Some people deadass want to boot up game, have fun at game, be done, right? And as much as I love me some hard games, not everybody not everybody else is like that. This is a good video so far, Jam.
They can have a meaningful game. I think what's tough here is that I don't want to justify any of the sort of antagonistic relationship that I think we have seen recently between designer and player. But sometimes these types of players are seen as sort of a vocal minority in the space. I can completely understand that frustration of players. It's feeling like this game that you have invested so much of yourself in has abandoned you. That's a consequence of not designing systems that allow games to be played by a vast number of people.
Yep.
and making sure that, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but the skill chain, buckets of different players that can play against each other, different links in the chain, can have meaningful games against each other so that you can have opponents across this valley of effort rather than you having, a bunch of pro players on one end and a bunch of new players on the other end and nothing in the middle.
At least when we're hearing like discussions on, Commander right now, that's kind of what we're hearing a lot of is there's a lot of people that are in the camp of just pure ambiguous casual gamers, and then there's just super competitive
CEDH, and that's it.
And there's not really, back in the day you'd maybe have like local tournaments into regionals into I don't know,
there used to be somewhat
yeah.
of a chasm here in Magic, right? Of you had casual
What up,
players
Kala?
that Wizards of the Coast didn't really have any way to connect with,
Right.
and then you had tournament players, which, like you said, there was a clear pathway up the chain.
And I think that there's going to be those skilled players that are seeing some of those moves that companies or designers might take to try and bring casual players in as, like you said, antagonistic towards maybe the game that they really love.
By the way, man, I can't be the gotcha king, man. I'm a gotcha tourist, man. I took Wuthering Waves out back, man, and shot it, man. I'm only a Hoyo gotcha tourist. You know? I can't do it, man. I'm a gotcha tourist. That's all I am, man. Chillin', man. Winding down from playing Marvel Rivals. Nice. Yeah, we playing the Disky, man. So grab the shooter's tag so that I could hit you up. Who called this tourist the king, man? Kala. Yeah, I don't play no Heavens Burn Red, no Girls Frontline, no Cookie Run Kingdom, no Arcanites, no Epic 7. Too much, man. No PGR. Too much, man.
Ways that designers
Zerpamelia?
maybe intentionally or unintentionally end up rewarding skill.
No Nike?
Rewarding players that have a high level of skill or enjoy having a higher level of skill in the game of their choice.
Right, or
Tourist.
traps that I think some designers fall into that
Sure.
end up rewarding
Make myself a
skill
Baron, man.
and
Odie.
widening the valley of effort in unmeaningful ways.
Big one,
Yeah,
complexity.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is probably the biggest one.
And I mean,
Most
honest,
common.
yeah.
Overlord?
And this can like rear its head in all kinds
No
of weird
Limbus?
ways, right? Where there is a perspective that presenting
True, Dahlia, no
information
Limbus.
in an easy to consume way is somehow making it easier for players to play the game. Where like you can have just as robust of a system, but information is presented in a more organized, chunked way. And still end up at the same result, that things are infinitely complex.
No
and
reverse
interesting,
1999?
but that information has just been presented better. Where in other aspects, you could present this information as sort of almost an obscuring haze in front of your players, and they have to go through the effort of navigating through it before they even get to play the game.
I think a
Yep.
perfect example of this is Magic versus Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh, for whatever reason, has refused to keyword any of their things. And so there's usually 2-3 paragraphs, huge text, lots of very tiny words all on a card to explain what it does. And a lot of the times it's repeated stuff that it's like, oh, I know other cards that have done these things, but they don't have keywords like First Strike, like flying, etc. Magic has also kind of had its own share of complexity creep, but over time, they've at least done their best to try and chunk down the words and not have too much text on their cards.
I like what he said there. Complexity creep, chat. I feel like there are definitely times in games where as more and more updates come, sometimes games just get more and more like for certain games, they just get more verbose. There's more, you need to do this in order to do that, and that in order to do this. It's like, bro, what happened to the good old days where we would just hop in? You did this before this, that before that, that in that order, and I'm done. Now, we gotta have Night Soul Blessing and all this bullshit. All right, let me stop.
Yeah, keywording is tough. Obviously, you have to do it, right? Because the wall of text on a card is like, oh my God, I don't even want to try to read this and try to understand it. But on the flip side, if you keyword too many things, that's
New
like,
players are going to be like, what is the
I don't know what
monarch?
that,
Yeah.
I don't,
What's
yeah.
committing a crime?
What's trample? I don't
Right.
understand any of this stuff. So the best keywords are ones that are sort of self-descriptive. Flying is probably just the best example.
Right.
period.
First Strike is pretty good.
So another way that complexity can creep into a game is not just in terms of like how you're presenting the information, but it's also in how you're obscuring important decisions that need to be made.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm going to pick on Altered a little bit for a minute. So
Yep.
Altered,
Complexity
something that
creep.
we ran into when we were playing the game is that you have to do a lot of analysis before you can make any kind of, or before you can even find what the meaningful decision is. So this is a way complexity can creep in where you're not hiding some of that math under the hood, right? So that players can see what the important decisions they're making. Instead, they have to see the cards that are in play, the cards that are in reserve of both yours and the opponent's side of the field, and the cards that are in their hand. There's also another
and
game.
3 stats on every card.
And 3 stats on every card. Yeah, this sort of it's not particularly meaningful complexity, especially when half the time the 3 stats on the card are just the same 3 numbers. It's like
a lot
3,
of
3,
the
3,
times.
and you're like,
or
okay,
it's
whatever.
such a minimal change that like
What is committing a crime like in Magic? Does that mean like in the card shop while we're all playing, I have to like steal money from the register and then go back to my seat? Like what's happening here? Do I steal a card? It's a general set of actions. That's what he.
like ultimately it doesn't have a huge impact.
Right, and ultimately all you're doing is creating. You're
Is that a keyword?
widening that valley of effort that says, okay, well, if you want to play this game, now you need to do this analysis constantly and get comfortable with doing that analysis before you're even at the meaningful decisions.
Similar to complexity, but a little different that we'll kind of touch on is memorization. We have a
Was the thunder? One of you casts a spell activate ability that targets an opponent or their stuff. Spell's permanence of gravity. You are committing a crime.
whole
It's a
video we
keyword.
just came
Got
out
it.
with not that long ago about memorized information. Some of what we talked about there is kind of like also
Donkey.
relevant here, but
This
I
is
think
insightful.
we're not big fighting gamers.
Yeah, we don't know that much about fighting games. We
although
have
I
a
found out that
cursory knowledge,
I found out you loved Soul Calibur, and that made me
Oh
very
my
happy.
God.
which apparently is a bad fighting game. But,
but
anyway.
I
No,
love
it's
Soul
not.
Calibur.
I love it
I
too.
grew up with Soul Calibur, so
You're bad at it. Heck.
but over the years, fighting games seem to be moving away from these long chains of memorized button inputs in order to get a move out, and seem to be reverting closer to what Smash Bros. Started back in the day, which is very simple button combinations, but meaningful decisions made with those simple combinations that are a reaction to what your opponent is doing.
Soul Calibur actually is one of the more simple fighting games to play. What up, Happy? He said apparently bad fighting game. Yeah. The only thing about Soul Calibur is it's a series that just does not get to live long. And I think it's because every time a lot of fighting games came out, they just didn't have a rollback, right? They were great games with no rollback. But with regard to what he said about Smash, this goes back to what I said about Sakurai. Sakurai knew to make something really simple, easy to understand, right? A to attack, B special, L and R block, take your pick, Z grab. You could also grab by shielding and pressing A, shield grab with that. If you're off stage, you could jump, and if you want to jump again, up and B. Some characters have multiple jumps, and it's just insane how. What I love most about Smash is when I look at a lot of other platform fighters. A lot of platform fighters, if you look at the face buttons that are already taken up and used, they all are used for a specific action. I feel like what made me like Smash was on the fly. If I wanted to just block with L instead of R, I can. If I want to jump with X instead of Y, I can. Right? Like there's certain, like if I wanted to do a jump cancel grab, I would just hit X then Z, right? I would piano it. But then if I wanted to short hop my aerials or wave dash, I'd use Y then L. And then if I wanted to block, sometimes I'd block with R. And then, like I just loved how we had so much freedom when it came to the controls. Sakurai really did. He really went ham. And then to go the next level and allow people to remap their controls after the fact, like I felt like he did such a great job. But to add like tilt stick and also letting people be able to do easy smash attacks before he even allowed us to change our controls, right? With the C stick. Bruh, that guy's a legend.
Don't necessarily want to risk the ire of the fighting game community because we have a cursory knowledge, but I will say that like what it sort of appears to me is that part of this is to move players to that higher level of skill easier, is to get to the timing and the sort of rock paper scissors predicting of your opponent that can happen in real time in fighting games, rather than leaving players mired in memorization of combos before they even get to the good part.
So he's not wrong that fighting games obviously are trying to get people to learn how to do things way easier with like auto combos and such. But fighting games still have that issue to this day where if you look at a cast of characters, most like Smash obviously may not. I won't add Smash to this because Smash is like what the most like popular fighting game. As far as all the other ones are concerned, I think now they're trying to homogenize things better, right? Like when you look at Dragon Ball Fighters, 2H is everybody's universal launcher. S was everybody's universal launcher in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And Tekken and and Tekken, down forward and left right punch, so that's down forward 2 is a universal launcher. They're all usually 15 frames to start up. Some characters may have slower ones. But you know, once you start playing people that are more experienced, even if they might add things that might make it easier for people to get into it, once you do start playing people that actually know what they're doing, it gets more difficult because there's a plethora of moves that you're going to have to defend against. You don't know if it's safe. You don't know if it's negative. Sometimes it's nebulous. But yes, fighting games are doing a better job of trying to allow more newcomers to get into it. I can agree with that.
And this is like you're saying with the valley of effort. It's essentially there's still a valley of effort, but it's just like a little peak every now and then. When memorization is there and complexity and stuff, it just widens more and more of that valley before you reach those individual peaks. But those little peaks we could consider as like heuristics. A player having to memorize a 10-button combo as opposed to instead not having to worry about the 10-button combo and instead just focus on if someone is blocking, right? Let's dumb it down, all right? I'm sorry, fighting game people. Instead, you just have to focus on when someone's like blocking or when they're doing a certain button input or something like that. It's a lot simpler to be able to recognize that than to know, okay, I have to remember this exact combination of buttons to do this thing. It gets you to that next heuristic level, like sooner.
Your 0 level heuristic is like, okay, well, or your 0 level learning, I guess, is how do I just play the game, right?
Yeah.
And then it's, well, how do I interact with my own stuff, right? And then it's, well, what is my opponent doing?
Yeah.
And like to get players to what is my opponent doing sooner, you're going to get to that more dynamic, interesting gameplay sooner.
Well said. Absolutely. He said it way better than the other guy. I think the other guy, I knew what he was trying to say, but he wasn't able to articulate it as well. Long story short, they're trying to expedite the process of you understanding how your character works so that when you face off against your opponent, instead of you taking a long time to try to understand how your character works, you already have a good grasp of your character to the point where now you're just going in and having a fun time playing the game, trying to understand how your opponent's character works, you know, which is like the fun part of playing fighting games once you understand your character.
You're going to get less advanced players to the actual interesting parts of the game sooner.
And chances are, I think it's funny because the complexity and the memorization and the heuristic trees and stuff, it's like all this probably exists in your game, especially a game that has like a high skill potential. But I think like what often happens, I think this happens with Magic a lot of the times, is that memorization is like the 4th or 5th heuristic, I think.
Yeah.
Really? Like before that, it's learning that you can play spells. It's learning that you can target your opponent. It's learning that you can potentially affect your opponent on their turn. Seeing their possibilities and then memorizing their possibilities based off of the color and the the partial information that you have.
Right, and Magic even gives you some amount of partial information to try to like deduce what they might be able to do, rather than just needing to memorize everything and have a shot in the dark. So like there's at almost every stage here, Magic has done a very good job of bringing players across that valley of effort.
Great
so you've got your players, you've got advanced players, like your game's going, you're getting to the point where you have a subset of players that are becoming more advanced than others, and they're starting to leave players behind. You're starting to see this pattern emerge, right? Let's say you're in playtesting and you're realizing that like players who have played your game more are just winning almost always. So let's talk about some tools and things that can be introduced into the game to help move some of the players across the valley, and also make it so there's more meaningful games against sort of like widening the buckets of players that can play against each other and have meaningful games.
Randomness.
Yeah. That's pretty much the big one.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That's it.
That's all you need.
We had to double check because we did a video on this previously talking about like luck versus skill. That we're tackling more the skill side of things than the luck side of things. But we did feel like, we want to mention that like in that video in particular, we kind of bring up that luck is usually the common way that you end up sort of reducing some of the returns that you get from skill, not eliminating it. So skill still matters significantly, but you always have the opportunity to have a more, to still have compelling or meaningful games with players of different skill buckets. So you could potentially have someone that is technically less skilled, is lower on the heuristic tree of understanding of what your game is capable of, but can still defeat another player.
Yeah, so that video is a more deep dive into this concept that we're talking about, but effectively, luck being introduced into the game helps create sort of dynamic play patterns that more skilled players will develop heuristics to sort of play around. This is sort of like understanding how to hedge against randomness.
For you guys, I don't know what heuristics mean, if they keep saying heuristics. Goodness. Goodness, my stomach. Sorry about that. I guess a lot of people see it as a mental shortcut, right? For solving problems in a quick way. That gives you a result that's good enough to be used in given the short amount of time you have. So that's why they've been using heuristics a lot, right? Because heuristics is a very important word to use in this situation. Because it's less about making the people who are playing the game take a long time to finally get to being good in the game. Because that's how it used to be back then when it came to video games. Back then, it's either you were gifted and got good at games really fast, or you're a person who takes a while. And I was definitely one of those people that took a while.
And that new players either won't notice it as much or will have some way to say, oh, well, I lost the game, but they got lucky, or and if I won the game, I did it, right? Like that's a pretty common pattern that you see emerge here, is that when a player loses, they can blame luck, and when they win, they can say that they did it. So another thing that you can add into games that also helps close or helps players move across the valley of effort is politics.
Interesting.
However, there's sort of this politics operates similar to luck, except if you end up with too much politics in your game, you can end up in sort of a strategic collapse state where politics is the only thing that matters.
Yep.
The other big difference is that politics creates very similar play patterns, where randomness can create very diverse play patterns and situations unfolding. Essentially, if politics matter too much in your game, the strategies of politics themselves override the strategies that are emergent in your game systems, where with randomness, that's not the case.
So you can see this in Magic, where I think that a lot of the times, I don't know if politics necessarily completely override everything in Commander.
Not in,
but
it
has an effect. And you can see that effect take place where there's plenty of games that you could play of Commander where someone is clearly the more skilled player at the table, but they are not winning all of the time, not only because of the overall like general systems that Magic itself has to try and make sure that luck is a factor, but also with politicking, right? If everyone recognizes that person as being the best, then maybe people aren't willing to help that person quite as often.
Right, exactly.
Or they're going to target them more.
You end up in that sort of 3v1 scenario,
right,
where this person's skill matters less.
The other thing, and we'll probably have another video that follows up on this.
I think when they said politics here, what is game theory politics, right? Here it says, a mathematical framework for understanding strategic behavior and predicting outcomes. Game theory allows scholars and